Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. In here. Mostly in here. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's another week. And yeah, of course, I haven't gotten I haven't organized my, you know, big gun kind of take over the world kind of plan. Still is, fall a little short. And every week I do think about it and this whole process of trying to communicate with the fellow humans and explain that there's a thing called efficiency in the world, and you don't want to waste things, like especially suffering, and you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish and ton insane, and megaton double insane. um, that civilization is kind of a good thing, and it's kind of got to be maintained by certain things that exist in it, like the rich not getting preposterously richer all the time, and people being able to get a decent job and make enough money to live a decent life, and certain quality of life and all that kind of crap. And you don't encourage people to have more kids that they can't take care of, and simple little logical things. Anyway, and the big picture thing is the recognition of the fact that what we're doing here is kind of really, really ugly. And that we ought to be rational enough to know that even though we're caught up in being little scurvy worms, that being a scurvy worm in the universe isn't really a great thing to be. And so there's no point in making more worms anyway. And this is really something we ought to encourage all the rest of the world not to do. The smart people ought to convince the less smart, and then the less smart and the smart ought to convince the really dumb. And if they have to convince them with laws that say you can't be an asshole, then that's what it requires. And but anyway, this is all just some sort of process that should be possible. I mean, it should be possible to have rational conversations with human beings and, um, you know, win the argument, so to speak. Just point out that, yeah, this is what we're facing, and it's not good enough, or this is the waste you're making, and it's not right. Stop doing it. It's so complicated. So it seems like it should be simple. But that's in an environment where you think that people are actually rationally thinking, and they're not thinking based on the fact that there's a bunch of they got a bunch of like electrodes on their nipples, and on their testicles and way up their vaginas, that trigger them on different subjects and in different ways, and so they feel little sparkies and stuff, and good and bad, connected with all kinds of ideas, like you say the word immigration, and it just the electricity fires, but it's not like rational electricity. It's just a bunch of reactionary electricity. I hate Trump. Trump hates immigrants. Immigrants are good because Trump hates them. Something like that. Just knee jerky, vagina electrocuted kind of thinking, and it's just really, really, really stupid, because the subject doesn't have anything to do with what people think it is. It's not about decent people versus bad people. It's not about unlucky versus lucky. It's about civilization and what it requires to have one, and what breaks them, what turns them into not civilizations anymore, how Rome falls and how you avoid falling like a Rome, that kind of stuff. But anyway, you can't really, like I said, the rational conversation can't take place because everybody is, got too many sensitive bits emotionally, and they can't have the rational conversation. And the same is true with life, in general. If we really look at what we are, the whole animal kingdom, all the living organisms essentially, I mean a huge percentage of the ones we notice anyway, the ones that move about and have some size, they're just mouth and anus is the primary function. Primary function is find somebody else and eat them and steal their energy. That's the, primary game, is go out on the field, kill somebody and eat them. If this was a game you played with your children, you'd say, oh, there's something wrong with this picture. Killing things and eating them, that doesn't sound like any kind of good idea. Stealing their energy, that's bad. That's rude. Stealing, it's at least rude. I mean, at least the minimum thing it's rude. And so here we're playing a game that's just primarily built on rude. I mean, we're built to be rude. Incredibly rude. I mean, it's incredibly rude to walk up to something and whack it and start chewing on it. That's really fucking rude. And that's all that's here. I mean, that's all that this life thing is to build these machines with this genetic code thing, and turn them into really efficient little meat grinders, little chomp, 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 chomp. Meat chewers. I mean, we don't really grind it, we chew it. Cows kind of grind it, but the thing is they're grinding organisms that can't go ouch, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just it's horrible as a game, as a plan, as a method of existing. This is not a good method of existing. We have to do better than this, and we either turn ourselves into some kind of, friendly jelly beans, full of whatever singularity power, that don't do any bad things and don't feel any bad things, or we recognize this is a stupid thing to invent. You don't build one of these things. You don't build the little mechanical meat grinder. I mean, if we sort of have the technology, we can imitate, like we can build a robot that acts like a dog, and we can build one that acts like a cat. If we actually built them to act like a real cat, to go out every day and hunt down stuff and kill it, chomp it up and then poo it out, you'd feel proud that you made one of these things that goes out and finds some little organism that's trying to just eat through its life, and I just found some seeds to eat, and it's all like happy. Oh, I found some seeds. And then some monster comes up and grabs it and starts eating it alive, little bits at a time. You wouldn't want it to happen to you. I wouldn't want it to happen to me. I'm damn sure of that. I mean, maybe you people are a little bit weird, so maybe that's kinky fun, but I don't get it. No, I'm pretty damn sure I wouldn't want my legs ripped off and my arms ripped off, and and I'm still breathing and still aware of the fact that, oh shit, my legs and arms are gone, and I'm in pretty big trouble. What else is going to go? What else is going to happen? I mean, just horror and terror. And what if you get swallowed and you're still alive, and the acid is blinding you and you're suffocating in the acid? I mean, it's horrible. Half caught in the trap, the little meat trap. So there's nothing, and we're watching it happen to ourselves, and we watch our loved ones. They're supposed to be your loved ones, but apparently most of you people don't love anything. I mean, I seem a little bit emotionally retarded, and certainly somebody could say that I wasn't very loving, but apparently I'm a lot better at it than you failures, because I find it really horrible to watch somebody I care about suffer and die. Doesn't seem to me some experience I want to carry around with me forever and ever, as, oh, isn't that just a charming as fuck? No, it's crappy as shit. Well, that's a good quote. Charming as fuck versus crappy as shit. Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, that's the stuff been rolling around in my head, and I have watched a few of the Modern Mystic videos, but he's just gotten so obtuse, and he's just in his own little magic world of bullshit. Nothing matters. Everything's just some pub conversation. It's all he's capable of now. Trivial, trite, silly. but now and then he'll say something that you could build a decent conversation out of as a concept, about what people do with ideas even, and how they process them, and how trillions, just thin the thinking that goes on. But anyway, they're just part of the routine. Everybody else is doing it. He almost applauds that kind of cliche. Well, that's probably not good for you. Yeah. Oh, I knew it was trying a different microphone. I had it all balanced, you see, but didn't really work out as you noticed, because I moved and that unbalanced it. But anyway, still doing some technology tests here. I might play one of my old videos here. We'll see at the end, just to see if it provokes any other tangential or connected ideas or thoughts. But I really should prepare. I really intend to. Eventually, these videos, I think, are going to intend to be some sort of educational on a subject kind of thing, and I'll try to make them interactive in some way. Get more feedback some way or other. Some better feedback, let me put it that way. But anyway, it's for the future. Intend to do soon, coming, maybe, possibly. So anyway, so life is just this. We're built to play, okay, and we're somehow built. Certainly part of us to emotionally accept all kinds of trauma. So one of the things the mystic brought up was rape. And of course he brought up in this trivial manner that, well, what's the big deal? Go ahead, stick a dildo up my ass and call me some rude names and I'll get over it. Even if you hurt me, I'll still get, even if it's really very unpleasant, sickening and horrible. You kick me in the nuts, you do.
Could be a new post.
A few other nasty things.
And such.
Totally. There's no new post of any value. Anyway, even if you do physical damage, so again, he's sort of making this argument that his understanding is that rape is just about it being a bad experience, and he's not really thinking very creatively. That if I gave him that bad experience and I connected it to images of beautiful women or something, I forced him to look at maybe his sister or something, that then this trauma becomes a whole new kind of experience. And if he ends up having to associate, like if we brutalize you and then we throw some vagina in there,
could be a new post
as part of the experience. What is, then what? Then your whole, every time you see your sister, you're going to remember the bad experience. Maybe every time you see a beautiful woman, you'll start to associate it with this very ugly thing that you experienced. Maybe if we make the vagina skanky and we fill it full of lots of dirty bits and we shove that in your face, maybe it'll change every time you're with a more pleasant vagina. And it just seems like that's not too hard to figure out, that that's really what the trauma of rape is the associations between sex and violence and unpleasantness, and it's a conditioning, and it could be very destructive, especially to, say, a young woman. But anyway, it's just, again, it's this, people are just so trivial in their understanding of things, in terms of, it doesn't take much thought to figure out that it can be pretty psychologically complicated how you are first introduced to sex, or how you're treated by the opposite sex in your relationships, and it could screw you up emotionally. And we see all kinds of evidence of it. A couple of men have a couple of bad experiences, and they start growing beards and going their own way. Because they can't take it. They can't get over it. move on. Um, and they start scapegoating and start figuring all women are this and all women are that, and that kind of nonsense. I did want to get to a little more deep point on this subject, and I've sort of lost it for the moment. So, rape. I have to connect that to something. Um, uh, but it tends to be something about this idea of, yes, everybody can have a different interpretation of things and a different psychology, and so that makes all of these questions kind of complicated, because we're all not living in the life of the Bangladeshi who might come over here and all he's known is violence on the streets and all of this other stuff, and he comes to this country and he's supposed to be a civilized person, and that's kind of a silly expectation. And so a lot of this stuff gets complicated. But most of you could argue that most of those kinds of the low-level perpetrators, the street type perpetrators, are ones acting only out of emotion and conditioning. They're the most, they're like an ignorant animal almost. And the irony is those are the ones we fearmonger, is these petty criminals, and the ones who, like a Donald Trump, who are so much more maniacal in their disconnect from the human race and from any sense of responsibility to it or to its civilization. People don't see that evil for what that is. That like I said, the insanity of somebody who inherited money talking to other people as if they need lessons from the guy who inherited it on how to be a winner. I mean, it's so obviously insane as a concept. Learn from the one who didn't have to learn, who never had to do the tricks a day in his life, and when he actually tried to do a few tricks, he failed dismally. Um, you know. So these are lots of arguments you can make. I mean, it's like the whole argument about who Donald Trump is and what he is and all that kind of crap. He's just such a scumbag, and it's just so obvious. Like, there's already facts that just dictate what a scum he is, in the sense that he's just insanely lies about his success when it's impossible. There's no possible way he could have been anywhere near as successful as he claims to be, because he's been writing off his taxes for 20 years. He lost $2 billion or so, and in the 20 years since then, he hasn't made it back. That's why he's still deducting from his taxes his previous losses. And this is even the very fact that the rich have this faculty. People say people who play the stock market are earning it because of the risk they're taking. They're risk takers. Well, where's the risk? Any losses you have, you can write off your taxes. So there's no risk unless you never make any money. I mean, there's no risk of losses because your losses can be written off. So all you're getting is free gains. And so the only way the system can't benefit you is you have to lose money every single time you play the market. That's the only way you can lose, the system, for them. So what risk is there? They can't possibly lose unless they're complete losers. And even then they still can't lose because they won't pay taxes on losing. So it's just such bullshit. Well, anyway, I really want to make another economics video. Just to keep pointing out how insane this system is, to give tax cuts to people who already have huge benefits in the tax code. The richest people have this huge benefit. They don't have to go to work. Their job is, it's like you be given a job, and your job is you sit at your desk, somebody puts $1 million on the table, and they say to you, well, whatever you can do investing wise in this $1 million, any profits you make, okay, that's your salary. All right, so your salary is going to be the profits you make, and you get to keep it. You only pay 20% tax on it, because it's this is a special kind of work, where you don't have to pay regular worker man taxes. So the worker pays 40, and the guy who invests money pays 20. So the guy who actually sweats and has to think and do a lot of stuff, this guy just sits there and says, well, I'll put 1/4 in Amazon and 1/4 in Apple and 1/4 in Microsoft and 1/4 in Bimble Bangle, and I'm guaranteed to make an income. And I don't pay, I'll pay half the taxes if some guy had to actually go to work. And I only have to show up to work for like 2 days for the whole year, and my work is done. I do 2 days work for the whole year, and I pay a lower tax rate for my income. I mean, it's that insane, and people accept this as somehow rational. It's just so insanely irrational. And so, I mean, nobody should be able to say that Donald Trump is a good businessman. I mean, he's obviously a horrible businessman. And then you have the examples of how he's cheated other people and hasn't even paid his contracts, and all the other little games he's played, and then laundering all the Russian money, of course. Can't even play by the rules. Amazing. Anyway, that's a huge sidetrack from where I was originally heading. But I guess the real point is that, the subject of life is, yes, this is one where people have all kinds of emotional triggers, and it's very hard for them to be rational because most of them are religious kooks, which really is problematic. So you gotta get rid of that stupid sacred cow. Somehow we got to kill that nonsense, and we're going the opposite way. That's one of the things that I find so obnoxious about the liberals and their love for the immigrants, is the immigrants are dragging God back onto our streets, and we just don't need that. That's a virus that we should have been happy to be getting rid of, and inviting it back. It's just so stupid. Especially when they're indoctrinating most of the children, are being born to these people who believe this rubbish. So quite depressing. So anyway, so the subject is the big subject of talking about the actual nature of our existence and the fact that we are just, flatworms with scheming tools. They're not like intelligent tools, necessarily. Most of the intelligence was revolved around building snares, better traps, better mouse traps, right? That's what our intelligence is used for. How can we more efficiently grind up the other creatures and organize them to our benefit and enslave them to our purposes? And that's not something you call enlightened intelligence or whatever. It's probably some good word for when you're thinking in some sort of nice way, or purely unselfish way. Okay, next time I'll tape it to the I got tape. Ooh, that's probably really loud too. Sorry. I know next time. Tape it, Gary. Tape it. There. Oh, sorry. Don't make bang noises. Well, anyway, it's the price of learning. Yeah, you're paying the price for me learning something. Anyway, so yeah, you can't have this straight up conversation about the mediocrity. Actually, it's a lot worse than that. The horror, the horribleness of our basic function. We're basically are Tyrannosauruses. We just look more pleasant on the outside. So it's like the dart frog or something. It's horribly poisonous. It's very pretty, but horribly bad to play with or to be around because it's going to kill you. And so it doesn't look like a Tyrannosaurus, but it probably kills more efficiently than a Tyrannosaurus. More. I wouldn't even say efficient. Obviously, being poisoned to death isn't fun. It kills more effectively, but it looks quite benign. Quite harmless. Lots of insects like that. Very poisonous, pretty butterflies and stuff that'll kill a bird if they ate it. So our appearance, our kind of dull, stupid-looking appearance, it doesn't look like we're a tiger or a cheetah or a tyrannosaurus, but we're just the claws we have are just made out of our capacity to dismiss and be bigots and be stupid and use our intelligence purely in a selfish and self-serving manner. That's what makes us a monster, is the fact that with our intelligence we don't have these conversations about what a horrible dilemma this is, to be born with this GI tract, this necessity to consume. And well, I mean, it's so bad because humans don't really have the necessity. We don't need to. We really aren't made to eat other feeling things. We're made to eat things that don't feel, and we decided to change those rules a couple million years ago and play a different game over the fire we invented or discovered. But again, we're just using these things in ways that have nothing to do with recognizing the efficiency or productivity or the value consequences of our existence. And you just can't. It's meat grinder. You can't turn it into a TV. Just isn't. It's not going to turn into something innocent, if there could possibly be such a thing. Are harmless. Harmless is impossible in a world full of things that are in need, and what they need is, as a practical fact, impossible to provide without harming something else. The cats just can't exist, as a practical matter, harmlessly. We can, but we won't, and we don't. And that's just, like I said, that just adds insult to the injury, so to speak, that humans have the capacity to do so much better. And they had the capacity, even with their crude construction. Their crude construction wasn't completely horrible, and they made the parts that weren't horrible horrible. Which, it's just more reason to just have contempt. So anyway, I guess I could play a little bit of whatever video this was. It has a number, doesn't really have a title. It's from the old Vlogerdome website, I think. It says Vlogerdome on it anyway. So probably going to try to do some more videos in that, under that title, with a different style perhaps. 12 subjects, and you just argue the 12 subjects kind of idea in the future.
Response video to a comment. Yeah, I don't like much at all. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it anyway, so I'll just read it. What's all this talk about the universe rejecting slavery, ? So, he's making the counter-argument that somehow the world still sucks just as much as it did 5,000 years ago. Blah, 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 and the human race hasn't learned anything or become a little more elegant or...
Yes, so that is that's an interesting subject, because it's like how benevolent we've become in terms of, well, benevolent's the wrong word to use. So many more people died violently in the past, and life was so much more brutal. But the counter argument is people now die of diseases more than once. You get to die a few times before you finally die. And you have that whole horror of being caught up in the system when you're aged, and you could spend 10 or 15 or 20 years essentially incarcerated in a drool and babble home, debilitated and totally useless, and a horrible blight to the civilization, in that you consume so much labor just to keep you fed and clean. And that's a much higher brutality than the quick death that took place in the past.
A little better, and which is just crap. That we have, through intelligence, become refined and improved. We have laws against
Right. So there's lots of stuff we fixed, and then we broke a bunch of stuff that didn't need to be broken. So it's like we have all this technology to control these liabilities of life, and especially in the end of life. This is where the biggest toll in terms of suffering is endured. And so we have the technology, and we won't apply it because the religious nuts say, no, you can't play God, can't take responsibility for our existences. God says we're supposed to suffer. God says we're not supposed to know anything. And the irony is, though, they say it's okay to build nuclear accelerators and all kinds of other stuff because to find out the truth. Well, if God wanted you to know what made atoms move or what they're made of, why wouldn't He just told you in the Bible? If He wanted you to know what smallpox was, why didn't He just tell you what it was? So obviously He didn't want you to know all of this crap. That's part of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, maybe. So you're all sinners for, finding out anything. you know, so it's, they're hypocrites to their own Bibles anyway, and that's the joke of it. So in the name of their hypocrisy, they torture people, force us to live a much more primitive life than we should be living, for the sake of their fucking totems, their stupid offerings to their God. So they basically pile up a bunch of unnecessary suffering and spill it on the altar of their Jeebus and say, see, Jeebus loves you because he made all this extra suffering for you. Isn't that just wonderful? We made all this extra suffering because we love you so much, Jesus. And that's how fucking insidiously stupid it is. But this is the key thing, though. Because why are they doing it? It's because they're desperately insecure regarding the value of life. They're desperately insecure. They have to use this aggressive propaganda, so aggressive that they can't even allow old people to die, by their own hand, by just saying, I've had enough of the God fun. And they're so insecure that they have to do this draconian, imposition against reason, because they're afraid of that very question. Is life worth living? Is this a good deal God has offered us? This crap. The GI track. Is this something I should admire God for creating? And the whole nature thing that He's created, that we're supposed to be deluded enough to think none of the other animals are feeling any pain or suffering. God says it's all okay. And they're so insecure about that bullshit. That's why they're so reactionary. They can't let a single bit of it crumble because they have so little. They can't give up any of it because they have so little reason defending their silly notion of an intelligently created universe. Yeah.
All over the place, all around the world you see these laws against abusing animals. You have to do things the right way. To say slavery still exists is nonsense. We don't chain people up, we don't shoot them.
Right, we really have demonstrated the capacity to be reasonable and intelligent, but as soon as you start encroaching on the sacred cows of the meaning of life, the value of it, that somehow surviving is more important than suffering. As soon as you start to encroach on these sacred perceptions, then reasoning cannot be applied anymore. And but you see a lot of it going, a lot of backsliding. I mean, I made this video, of course, before Trump got elected, because that's almost like people saying, yes, I'm for the slave state. They weren't voting for much else.
Yeah, there's an economic system that enslaves people through desperation, but guess what? Most of those systems have been supported by the common man. Is the liability there?
Right. So at least I did realize that it's the dumbasses that we keep saying. Let's bring more dumbasses into the country so they can vote for complete assholes. I mean, again, the Democrats are just so clueless in seeing they're creating their own downfall by thinking Homer Simpson's going to be on their side. you know, that Homer Simpson's going to figure out that global warming's real or all this other crap. No, he's not. He's going to be just a selfish asshole. So all these people you're, you know, thinking are going to be on your side are going to turn on you on every important subject. And, you know, it's just really stupid. But anyway, let's jump ahead a little bit, see if it gets more interesting.
Brutalist in this world right now. And that's just a causal link that's undeniable. But it doesn't. Again, it has progressed. Human civilization has progressed.
Alright, yeah, well, like I said, it is an argument that can be made, but I'm saying on net balance, clearly the point is that we have gained a huge amount of knowledge in the last 10,000 years, and we have cured diseases and penicillin, and we've done a lot of hospitals, we've done lots of good things, public education, except it shouldn't be financed by people who don't have kids. You know, it should be public education, but the people who have kids should be financing it, clearly. But anyway, so we have lots of institutions and mechanisms, and you know, that are where we have applied our intelligence to make things more efficient and more humane. But just as clearly, most of it we've tainted by giving it to selfish capitalist jackasses who create our Fukushimas, who, you know, screw us over and, you know, compromise any value that we were attempting to recognize can be gained. There's lots of free energy in a sense, but you can't get any if you keep giving it to some middleman to provide it to you. This subject came up a little bit next. He talked about the Amazon and Berkshire and whatever, somebody else doing this healthcare thing, and I think he thinks they're going to build hospitals or something. They're not going to get into that racket. They're just going to get into the insurance game because their companies are smart enough to figure out, why am I paying a middleman? Because that's all the healthcare system is a bunch of middlemen. So yeah, of course they'll do it in-house. It's cheaper. You know, they don't need to make a profit on it. They'll just make the savings that they're not going to be paying the middleman anymore. That will be a profit. So they'll make a 5 or 7% profit by just not paying a middleman. And that's how stupid our system is. I mean, they made a healthcare system and they just keep saying we can't put the middleman out of business. You know, too many people work for the crooks, I suppose. And Homer Simpson is just too fucking stupid, you know, to understand how the system works and understand that middleman isn't a good thing. Resellers aren't fun. They're toxic waste. Anyway.
Monarchs. We got rid of monarchies. I didn't even mention that one. But substantially, the only ones that exist now are just fake. They don't have any power. They just still have some money.
Right, so this was another thing where you say, yes, we figured out that monarchy is stupid. Inheriting control of your country is really dumb. It's just stupid. It's no way to figure out who's the best for running the country is to say, who inherited it? And so you figure out that inheritance is completely corrosive, but you don't figure out that money does exactly the same thing. And so we really are still living under monarchy. The monarchs, the 0.01% still control, the nobles still control us, and they still inherit their tools of control, the swords and the knights and the rest of it. They control our media, they control all the industries, they control the standards by which we live for their profit. And so, yes, smart enough to get rid of kings, not smart enough to get rid of the silly method that created kings, which was inheritance. Inherited privilege is bullshit. Just complete and utter bullshit.
Gas. How do you think it's changed? It's changed by anger. When people see other people angry, they say, I wonder what they're angry about. And then they might care to listen. And then they might hear and they might say, oh yeah, that makes sense.
So it is true that, you know, part of the problem is that the people got angry. They did the March on Wall Street. And, you know, Nick thinks that they couldn't have had a better idea. Like they couldn't have had a leader who actually had a plan. No, they could have. And the whole thing would have been a whole different, the turnout would have been completely different. And we could have had a candidate running against Trump who wasn't some, you know, completely tainted piece of crap, a war-mongering, lying, you know, bankster, um, immigrant lover. I mean, it was just the worst nightmare of a candidate in terms of anybody who's a real progressive. And so all that could just have been different. And no, but it wasn't. But just by this subtle thing that these people, they get all mad about something, but it's all just scapegoaty. They think Wall Street is something. Corporations did it. The Fed did it. They just never get the targets right. And yeah, but that's all it's missing is somebody who can actually aim the cannon. The cannon can work. It's just, yeah, you have to aim the fucking thing. And the problem is the method of creating the person who aims it is baby kisser, liar, shyster, bullshitter. So those people never have any real skills. So it's the root politics that's so broken. It's the ground, the grassroots. They always talk about local politics being so much. It's so much more worse. It's so much more superficial. These people they don't rise to the top. Again, it's not some kind of cream rising to the top. It's just disgusting fat rising to the top. Gross, ugly fat.
If you can, to jump in front of anything that might indicate that the road to progress will be closed by something. If you can stop it, if all you have to do is push the door and it hits the bad guy in the face.
Yeah, so I've talked about this before, that so many of these subjects, all these assholes, all the Homer Simpsons have to do is say, all right, I sort of get it. I mean, if there's a choice between paying people who work or paying people who inherited it, yeah, pay the people who work. Okay, I can vote for that. They just can't do it. You can't get them to raise their hand for anything, and that is just so fucking amazing. Because their brains they're so electrically triggered somehow. Somehow they have some connection. It's like, I guess everybody must know somebody who's a school teacher or something. There must be an awful lot of school teachers have extended families and they all whine and cry to each other all the time or something. It's like the cop thing. It's impossible to understand why people are so, let's give them everything. Let's give them more benefits than salary so they never pay any taxes. They only have to work 10 years and can retire and get insane salaries. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. Where do they get this clout from? And it just happens because they connect them to the military and they connect them to all the heroes, and somehow people think that what they're doing is rational, and it's completely irrational. Completely.
And the negative future is prevented, then you push the door. And you're going to push it because you understand these dynamics.
Yeah, like I said, it just doesn't take any effort at all to fix so many of these problems. And it just takes somebody saying, yes, I understand what you're saying, I'll sign the petition. They won't do it.
You will be deterministically doing exactly what you need to do to get to that future, just like...
So the determinism part just comes in the fact that all these arguments have to happen. Somehow you have to persuade these people. Somehow we have to cut the trigger wires, and so then people can see, oh yeah, inheritance is not like winning at all. Inheritance is like cheating. If I did it in a baseball game, it would be bullshit. If I did it in any other contest, it would be bullshit. Should the lottery winners inherit lottery winnings? Because your father won the lottery, you should win the lottery? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
I mean, you people are just so fucking dumb.
There. So that hasn't changed. So, at least whatever 5 years ago when I made this, yeah, nothing changes. People are just so fucking, I'm sorry. They're just so stupid.
Then you're assuming they had the pot. No, I'm not assuming any of this crap. But as a terminist, you can't do that. Well, again, I don't have any expectation that when I say...
So again, these people who use this determinism argument, these bent and crooked ways, as if somehow it was determined that I don't talk, I don't think something, see something, talk about seeing it, explain it to somebody else, and that somehow they think about it, and then they talk about it, and then they tell somebody else that doesn't happen in the real world, when that's exactly how the world is constructed. It's just so stupid. You have to think to yourself, is all you're supposed to do is to sit, behind your troll rock and throw your mud bombs and think, well, maybe maybe there's some better strategy for my life than that. And yeah, it's a little bit complicated figuring out, how to best utilize your existence. But the fact that there we can't see the future, but you can certainly see. I've said it before. You can see if you're reading a shitty script. You can see it, and you can realize, oh yeah, I got to rewrite this piece of shit.
Asshole, somebody's going to go back in time and change their behavior. I have every expectation that they're going to say to themselves, gee, that was asshole of me, and maybe next time I'll be a little more careful. Are you
learning? See, that's the key thing, learning. And but it's really hard to educate a human. Once they've sewn their flag, into their shirt. Once they've become a patriot or something, they're just, cement-headed, and they can't hear. They can hear nothing. Once they've been fondled by Donald Trump in the proper way, they just, he's just too swell. He fondled me just right. Something like that.
And we can say, what is the stuff that's going to get the clock to the future? What's going to make this gear work the best and create the best possible outcome?
Yeah, it's whatever. This is all just a thing, it's being baked, a cake that's being baked, this whole thing of reality. And we're all little bits of cake, and rationally we can understand how there's, very little difference between the Martin Luther King and, the other raisins, so to speak. The other bits of fruit. And that's all we are. And we should be able to say, yeah, well, maybe I'm going to try to be the best little bit of shit I can be. And no, it's not on people's agenda.
We still have to read the script. We still have to pave the road to the future. We can't just say the road's going to get paved no matter what we do. What we do will decide where the road goes.
It's just a fact. It's just how you swim in this cesspool is going to decide whether there's more cesspool, how the flow goes, everything else. So it is going to be decided by these factors. If the valve of cess is going to be turned off, it means some of us have to crawl up there and turn it off. It has to get done.
Damn it. So
this isn't going to happen by magic. People have to talk about it, they have to think it's important enough, and then they have to do it. And that's a process. And it's hard to engage humans in any kind of process that doesn't have to do with what's in it for them. And that has got to stop. I mean, that's got to be thought of. People got to find nihilist retards as obnoxious and evil. And they got to tell them right to their face, you're obnoxiously stupid. Stop it. Or else. Yeah.
If we're going to get to a good future, if the future is going to be a good place, we would have to, we need the determinism that is going to make us do the things that are likely for that to happen. And I'm just saying, having...
Right, so we need to have these thoughts in our head. We have to see ourselves as crappy animals from a crappy origin, and recognize that we can do a lot more with our brain than scheme how to trap other organisms and kill them and do things. And we can do productive engineering with our brain, and we have an obligation to apply it to that purpose. And we can't keep voting for the slavery.
Thoughts that disengage us from doing are not, in my opinion, a good sign.
Yeah, so all these people who think we have to take care of ourselves and we have to do what's important for us and we have to blah blah, all this self crap and all of this anti-government crap and all this it's like anti-civilization crap is just crap. We have to invest in our civilization. You're not going to have one if nobody's willing to invest in it. And investing means sometimes some of the things that are going to happen aren't going to be really great for you personally, but they'll be great for the game. So yeah, maybe your kids don't get to inherit as much money as you did. It's not the end of the world. And it's one way of saving the world, frankly. But anyway, probably enough. I think I'll call it enough, regardless of whether it is enough. It's sort of it's not a very good hair. It's not a very good place to end. All right, we do a little more.
That's an indication that we're going to fail.
Jump there. Oh, there, I'm done. So that's a good way to end, where there's silence. All right. It's a little better. Okay, so I think that's enough. And so, yes, I'll just continue to promise something more than this, I imagine. Graphics and things, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. A lot of, busy. I'm always working on stuff. It's just, just not this stuff particularly. But anyway, I understand. Mostly. Hard to know what to invest in, but anyway. But whatever. We can disagree on that. Probably. But we're going to, regardless. So I'm probably not going to change anything radically in the near future. But anyway. Try to be just trying. Okay, that's enough. Trying. That's all. Trying. That's enough.